Hey everyone, this is Artyom, also known as Tema2010, and today I'm gonna review the latest updates on the GTO Trainer, and also I will talk a little bit about the new Spin&Go package that was released quite recently. Okay, first let's go through the functionality of the GTO Trainer. I will go through all the settings, all the tabs you see here on the left, and we'll go from bottom to top. Well, of course, there's nothing too interesting in the About tab, so let's go straight to the License tab. Here we can activate a key if we have one, or we can deactivate it to use on the another computer. And finally, we can request a trial key. Then we have settings. Okay, here we have the update URL where the program should look for new updates. Then we can set default values for small blind and big blind. Well, let's just take the standard values of 0.5 and 1. Next, SPF path. Here you should enter the path to the Simple Post Flop directory. We need it basically for the custom games. So for all those games you've calculated yourself, for the program to be able to use Simple Post Flop to calculate turns and rivers. And finally, the engine accuracy. It determines how precise will be the calculations of the situations. And of course, the higher the precision, the longer will it take for the program to calculate results. So it's up to you whether you want the program to work faster or to be more precise. And here basically the same settings for the PO solver, which you can also use with this GTO trainer. Okay, next we have a sessions tab, and here you can find all the sessions that you've played, and also you can rewatch them if you want to. Okay, next step is playing versus bot, but currently this feature is under development. And finally we have training packs and custom games. Some of the packs you get with the program, so when you pay for the license key you get some of those, but some you have to buy separately. And now, what do we get with the program? First of all, we get these free beta starter drills and regular games. And also we get this core GTO pack, which you can find right here. Here we also have both drills and regular games. By the way, what's the difference between those modes, drill and regular? When you do drills, you have to choose the percentage of a certain action. Let me give you an example. Let's take this drill, 25 BBs, heads up, min raise pot, and we have to defend against a c-bet. We click play, and here we have this situation. We are out of position on the big blind. It's a min raise pot, we face a c-bet, we have 4-7 on the board, 8-5-4, and we have to decide with what percentage we're gonna take one of these 4 options. How often we want to call, you see here the percentage. How often do we want to fold, and how often we want to raise small or shove. So yeah, we pick the percentage for every action and then we go to the next hand. And I'll come back for this a little bit later, but for now I want to tell about the difference between drills and regular trainings. So let's use another example. Here we have a regular training, 15 BBs, heads up, limped pots. And basically it's the same as playing versus bot, but we only have some certain options. Like here we have check, bet 1 and bet all in. We can only pick one of 3 options that were calculated before for this situation. And we have these fixed options for every spot. Alright, let's go to the custom games. And now I will explain what can we do here. Basically, here we can upload some models that we created ourselves using a simple post flop. And what we do is, yeah, we calculate some situations in simple post flop. We create a model, a game tree, we get the results, and then we upload everything here. And let me show how we do this. We click this add button right here. And then we can actually choose between a drill game and a regular training. You know the difference already, and let's just for example pick the regular game. Then we have to name it, let it be, I don't know, heads up 23 BBs min raise pot. Then we pick the game and position. Could be any position, could be a certain one that we want. And then we choose if we want to see the ranges from the very start or we only want to see them on mouse over. So yeah, it comes down to you and what do you want from this exercise. For engine we now only have simple post flop, so no options here. And we now have these beautiful options of playing the game from the pre-flop. So yeah, you can either play from the pre-flop or from the post-flop. Again, it's up to you. But for now, I'm gonna only work with the post-flop. And finally, solution directory is the folder where you're gonna keep all the results. For example, I can open this folder, have a special folder for heads up right here. And then I pick this special folder of some certain situation. And this feature, read directories recursively, allows program to also use subfolders in the directory that you picked. So if you have any irrelevant subfolders, make sure this checkbox is checked. And finally we can click Save. Here it is, our new spot. We can add another one or we can edit this one or any other. And we can change the name, we can change the default position, we can change range display if you want to see ranges from the start or not. And of course we can remove it. Now if we click play, we see the familiar interface. And yeah, again we just have to pick the correct option. The only problem with custom games comparing to training packs is that for the flop everything is calculated, so we just pick the option we think is correct and we get the answer. But when it comes to turns and rivers, we have to wait until the program calculates everything. And all the calculations are made by a simple post flop that you attach to the program. So it means that if you want to use this custom games feature, you have to have the license key for the GTO Trainer as well as for the simple post flop. Alright, now let's go through the exercise. Here we have a situation where we are in position, so we are on the small blind. And let me explain to you what all of these buttons in the bottom left corner do. First we have these three, any, in position, out of position. If we choose any, then we get a random position. If we pick in position, we're only gonna play in position. And the same goes for the out of position. So if, for example, you want to practice playing out of position, you just pick out of position. And yeah, you will get only situations when you are on the big blind. Okay, next, the play goes on until we make a mistake. So if we choose the correct answer, the game just goes on. And if you make a mistake, the game stops. Alright, in this example we have only two options, check and bet, and all those options are coming from the game tree that you upload. Also we have a random number generator, could be useful to someone maybe, and let's pick bet. Okay, the game ends here, but not because we made a mistake, it's because our opponent folded. And we also see the results, we lost no EV, but the best option was to check. Now we just click anywhere to continue and we get a second situation. As you see here we can find our previous hand and we can find the list of actions in the bottom right corner. First the villain checked, then we bet 152, and this option that we picked the program will use 99.05% of the time. Please don't confuse it with our overall continuation bet frequency. It doesn't mean that we have to see bet here 99% of the time, no. It's just that with this exact hand, 2-4 of diamonds on this board with these ranges, we have to see bet 99% of the time. And if we mouse over on this option that we picked like this, we see all the other options and the frequencies for all those other options. And since here the only other option is check, we see that we check less than 1% of the time. Next we have best EV action, but best EV action can be different from the action that we choose most of the time. Like here, the program says that the best EV action is actually check, but at the same time we bet almost 100%. But as we see, the difference in EV is actually very low. So for both bet and check, the EV is 1. So the difference is there, but it's very tiny. Anyway, the point is that all of those calculations come from the GTO software, And the GTO calculators work in a way that they sort of play against themselves over and over again, adjusting the strategies a little bit every time, until they come to unexploitable strategies for both opponents. And for example here, if we play against a guy who can exploit us, it's better for us to bet. But if he's not going to exploit us, the better option is to check. And I'll show you more examples of that later. And yeah, right here we see the actual difference in EV between the option that we chose and the best option in terms of EV. And if we multiply this number by 100, we get an average loss of about 0.2 BBs per 100 hands. And of course it's basically nothing. Okay, the other buttons. First, with this picture of an eye, shows or hides the bottom menu. Double arrows are used to switch between hands, next hand or previous hand. Single arrows help us to jump between actions, next action or previous action. Like if we want checks, this is the first action, then we go to next, hero bets, and the next villain folds. And when we click the last button in this line, we jump to the very last hand. Okay, and the only button that I haven't described is this little button SPF. And this one is very useful, and this is why basically playing custom games is so beneficial to you. You can anytime open simple post flop and see how you actually have to play in the certain spot. Like for example, this information is not enough for you that you have to bet with this hand 99% of the time. You want to know how you should play with other hands. So we open a simple post flop. Wait a second, we have to close party poker first. Okay. Yeah, I had to close party poker because GTO Trainer told me that I have to close every poker room before I open a simple post flop. And that's very fair. Now that I closed everything, let me show how this SPF button works. First of all, let's go through the hand. We have King 9 out of position. On the board, King, Queen, Jack, Rainbow. And I think we prefer to check. Okay, we check, he bets, and let's say we call. And again, we can instantly check our decision. You see, this is the best EV action, and we use it 31% of the time. We can also check other options, and as we see, we also raise to 4.34, 69% of the time. And yeah, the numbers here are rounded, so it's 31% instead of 30.86. And here too. Okay, now let's say we are interested in this situation. We want to know what we should do with our other hands. So we click the SPF button, and here what we get. We can see how often we check, how often we bet, what hands we use. Well, in few words, it's just the SPF analysis for the certain spot. And it's very, very useful if, for example, you want to use a couple of bet sizings, but you want to know the frequencies for each one of them. And yeah, this is only for flop. If you want to see the results for turn, you have to get to the turn and then click SPF again. Here in the top right corner, you can see how many hands you actually played. And if you want to see the results of your session, you click right here. Well, I haven't played any hand in this session yet, so we have no results. But if I open any session, any of my previous sessions, let me see, 1 second. Let's find a session where I played like a lot of hands. Well, 36 is enough, I think. Now we load this session. And yeah, again, I see all the mistakes I made, I see all the results, and for example, I can pick a situation where I've made a mistake and check what option is better. Yeah, and also I can see all the options available. If I hover over here, and yeah, I can see which option with which frequency I should pick. Bet 150, 44%, bet 375, 52%. Yeah, that's just awesome for analyzing your previous sessions. Also, if I want to see the summary of the session, or in other words, if I want to see my results, I can click right here. And yeah, I get this little summary of my session with graphic images. And I can also see this very same summary during the session. For example, let me show you. If I play this session, I can click right here on the number of hands in the top right corner, and it will bring the very same window with summary up. Now let's go through what we have in this summary window. On the left we see the list of combinations that we had during this session, and how we should have played them and how we actually played them. Yeah, we have trips, over pairs, under pairs, and the top line here is what we should have done according to GTO, and the bottom line is what we actually did. For example, with trips we should have always checked, but I've played 50-50, half bet, half check. Probably it was just two hands. Then with over pairs we again had to check all the time. And yeah, yellow means check or call, red fold, and green bet or raise. And as we see, I used bet too much with my over pairs. And here we see the comparison of our actions to what we should have done according to GTO. First, aggressive actions, bet or raise, then passive actions, check or call, and then fold. Red is what we did, and green is GTO. And as we see in this session, I have been betting or raising more than I should have. And also I've been calling and checking more than GTO. And since I have the very same amount of folds that GTO suggested, we can conclude that I've been more aggressive in the spots where I had to check or call. Then we have this little Evo Loss Graph. This shows how much EV I lose through all the hands I've played. And according to this graph, for 36 hands, I've lost about 1.74 BBs. And if we want to find out how much I lost in terms of my win rate, we have to divide 100 by 36 and then multiply it by 1.74. And let's just do the math right here. 100 by 34 by 174. Yeah, overall we lost in terms of our win rate about 5 big blinds per 100 hands. But 36 hands is a very small sample. And here we have a little breakdown of how all the hands ended up. How often we get to showdown, how often villain folds, how often we fold, and how often we make an error which leads to the end of the hand. And finally, in the bottom of the screen we have a list of all the hands with the EV loss and the result. Okay, we're done with custom games, and now we go to the training packs. Yeah, we'll talk about the benefits of the training packs and how we can actually use them. I will pick a Spin&Go pack as an example, and I'll go through all the spots we have here, because people often have questions about those spots, so yeah, I'll just go through every one of those. First we have 3 max 23 BB blind versus blind limb pot spot, so button folds, small blind open limbs, and big blind checks. Second spot, again blind versus blind, 3 max, but now it's a single raise spot with 23 blinds effective. Button folds, small blind 3 axes, and big blind calls. Next we have again blind versus blind 3 max limb pot, but with 16 BBs effective. Button folds, small blind open limbs, big blind checks. And again 16 BBs effective, 3 max, blind versus blind, single raise pot. But if for 23 BBs we use 3x raise for small blind, here with 16 BBs effective we use 2.5x raise for the small blind. So if we open this spot we see that the pot size is 5 BBs. We also have 2 more 3 max spots at the very bottom. It's a button against the big blind, a single raise spots for 25 BBs effective and 16 BBs effective. So button min raises, small blind folds, and big blind calls. And then we have 5 heads up spots. First, small blind min raises, big blind calls, 23 BBs effective, then same with open limb, 23 BBs. Then small blind min raises, BB calls 16 BBs, same for the limb pot with 16 BBs effective, and finally small blind limbs, big blind checks with 10 BBs effective. And soon we will add to this spot situations when someone ISO raises, both heads up and 3 max. And one more thing, to buy those training packs, you don't actually need to have a license key for the GTO Trainer or Simple Post Swap. Because all these spots in the training packs that you buy are already calculated from the beginning to the end. And you don't have to put your computer to work, because everything is done already. You just use these packs to practice. Custom games require you to have a simple post flop to make all those calculations. But here, if you buy a training pack, you have everything included. Everything is calculated for you. Many people ask if they need a license to use those packs. No, you don't need any license. You just get the trial version of the GTO Trainer. You download the packs that you have bought, and then you use them, and that's it. But if you want to use custom games, then yes, you need a license both for the GTO Trainer and for the simple post flop. And yeah, let's use this situation as an example to see how those packs work. We just click play and yeah, we start making decisions. For example, here we pick fold. Then here we auto check because we don't have any donk in range. And now when our opponent checks back, we have to pick an option. Let's check again. And yeah, as you see, villain makes a decision pretty much instantaneously, much faster than what it was in custom games. Because again, in custom games, the program has to calculate everything before it makes a decision, and here everything is already calculated. So yeah, everything is pretty fast here. And as well as in custom games, you can see your results. You see all those graphs, nothing is changed, so everything just like in custom games, except much faster. And yeah, unfortunately we can't see the game tree in a simple post flop. As you see, there's no SPF button. And maybe in future we'll add this feature to our packs, but for now, unfortunately, you can't see the simple post flop analysis. But anyways, if you want to see what are the other options and how frequently you have to pick one of those options, you can always check it right here. You hover over and you see the frequencies for every option. And of course, it helps a lot. And yeah, this was our little review of the GTO Trainer and the training packs that you can buy. And of course, if you have any questions, ask me directly. I will answer happily or reach our developers. Thank you and goodbye.